on, I do have a guest. I have another week and another author and another book that we're going to discuss. So I do have a guest with me, and his name is Peter. He's going to introduce himself and where he's from. But we're going to be talking about his book, and the book is titled The Scars of the Nation. So he's going to tell us about the book and about his experience. It's a personal experience, so I'm so delighted to be able to be featuring his book and his experience. I know we did, this month we are dealing with the books that people have gone through stuff and they have written books. They have come out victorious and they have written books about their experiences. So I'm going to introduce the author. It's Peter Mbuthia, and he's going to tell us where he's from. And after he tells us where he's from, he's going to proceed. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be in your platform. It's a very important platform for authors. And so let me tell you, I come from Eldoret. Eldoret is in Uasin Gishu, Kenya. That's where I was born and raised. And a lot of what I have written in my book has to do with my experience while living in Eldoret. I have written this book called Scars of a Nation, and subtitle is Survivor of Kiambaa Church Massacre and the Elusive Justice. So what I'm going to tell you is about the title as it is. I lived in Eldoret pretty much from when I was born, when I was raised, my primary school, my high school, my college. I'm one of those people who was just like zero graced within Eldoret.
Okay.
And then I did my business in Eldoret. I got married from around Eldoret too. I raised my kids within Eldoret until 2007, when the post-election violence happened. And my family became victims of that post-election violence. Our home was burned. My business was burned. And the worst that happened is that all my children, 3 of them who were under 10 years at that time, had gone to visit their grandmother who lived in Kiambaa. Most people would like to make a connection between me living in Eldoret, Yamumbi, which is almost like 12 kilometers to Kiambaa. So they want to know how my kids were in Kiambaa and you were in Yamumbi.
Yeah.
So they had just gone to visit their grandmother, just normally the way kids would want to go and visit their grandmother. And when the post-election violence happened, they had to seek refuge. And they thought the best place to seek refuge was in a church. Obviously, anybody would want to think a church is the safest place. Nobody can attack you in a church. So my kids and many people around Kiambaa village went to seek refuge in that church. So unfortunately, when the attackers were coming in the name of protesting a rigged election, that's what they were saying, they burned the church. They actually came, took all the mattresses that were around the compound and closed the church and put the church on fire. And so people died. We had 36 people dying. Many others survived. But one of my sons, who is the eldest son, survived, but with very severe burns. So he's the reason this Scars of a Nation book is possible, because I have built my story around him. He appears to be the main character. But at the same time, I've told the experience of me and my family, how we had to flee from Eldoret. First of all, we had to seek refuge in other safe areas. But when the violence happened on January 1st, 2008, I went looking for my son who had been saved by a good Samaritan and brought to a hospital called Eldoret Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital. And I never got to go back until much later. But the violence was still happening and people were being killed. It was a messy situation. So, you know, after all is done, we were able, I mean, my son was taken to hospital for quite a long time. In all, he spent 5 years being in hospital. He was in Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital for 3 months around there. And then we transferred him to a hospital closer to Nairobi called Kijabe Hospital for another 6 months. And then the doctor told us, now we have done enough that we can using the facilities that we have here at Kijabe, but we still recommend strongly that you look for a hospital outside Kenya, where then he can be treated for corrective surgeries. And they suggested a hospital here where we live now in Sacramento, California, called Shriners Children Hospital. It basically treats children with burn. Sorry. And that's how we found ourselves here in the US. So if you have a question at that point, I can be glad to answer.
You can ask. Yeah. So my question is, you know, the experience of your son as a father, and I know you have written a book about that experience of, taking care of your son, and it's very emotional to be able to, to see your son suffering and not being able to help him. You know, so what I would want to know, like in the book, you have put together the experiences that you went through, and what kept you going. And it's a lot of other things that were happening at that time, so much uncertainty. Um, you know, what um what kept you going at that time, and the pain, dealing with the pain of seeing your son suffering with the band.
Yeah. So I would like, first of all, to let you know that my wife played a very, very important role in taking care of our son. His name is Anthony. And he was just 10 years that time, and my wife stayed with him in the hospital throughout that period, while I had to take care of our other two kids, who are a girl and a boy. And because of the severe burns that our son uh, got, that kept us going because we wanted him to heal. So our attention and focus was on him, and we sort of forgot about ourselves until much later, when now he was healed, but he was still going for surgeries, and then that's when we realized, oh, now we don't have a home, or I don't have a business, and I don't have an income. Although people kept coming through for us, but that's not something I would say was going to be sustainable, because, as you know, everyone wants to take care of their own finances. So that was a very big challenge for us. But anyhow, we managed to pull through, and with a lot of faith and believe that our son was going to be better. And
Hello.
that,
We're gonna take a minute so you can adjust your earphones, because
uh,
I can't really hear you. But just 1 minute, adjust your earphones.
yes, I have. Have you? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I can hear you.
Okay, you can go ahead if you can hear me.
Oh, yeah. So, are you able to hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you better.
Yeah, so I've just told you that because of the faith that we had and the love for our children, because we wanted them to have a better future, we almost kind of forgot about ourselves. But we are going through a very depressing moment. But little did we know, only later, much later, when you looked back, that's when we knew that some of the instances in our life were signs of a depressive situation. And can you hear me? Are you able to hear me? I can't hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me. Okay. So I can really hear you well. So we're gonna just go ahead and try it one more time. The volume on your end.
Yeah, it's
It's gonna
okay.
work. So give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So, in short, that's how we pulled through. And when I looked back at the experience that I had to go, because as a dad, I did a lot. I observed a lot. I analyzed a lot about what was happening. You know, before even the violence happened, there was a lot of incitement to violence, and there was a lot of hatred among ethnic communities, and there was a lot of heated political
Yes, I
competition.
can hear you.
And there was a lot of heated political competition. And now that is what triggered the post-election violence when people thought that the election did not go according to how they wanted. So I'm telling the background of this post-election violence in my book, just to highlight for people to see where we had come from before the violence happened and the signs that you would observe before anything happens. And this was seen. Our government saw it. The civil society would observe that. But I think they did not take corrective measures until it happened. So the reason why.
And this was seen. Our government saw it. The civil society would observe that. But I think they did not take corrective measures until it happened.
Yes.
So the reason why. And this was seen.
There's
Our
a
government saw
backtrack
it.
of volume. It's coming
The
back to
civil
me.
society would observe that. But I think they did not take corrective measures until it happened.
Yes.
So the reason why. And this was seen. Our government saw it. The civil society would observe that. But I think they did not take corrective measures until it happened.
Yes.
The volume is coming back to me.
Oh, the volume.
Yeah, it's just
Can you
coming
hear
back.
me?
I can hear you, but there's some background volume.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you well. So let me go ahead. So
Okay.
I'm talking about the book. So I felt obligated to write the book just to highlight and put into for people to be able to see what happened and the environment that existed before the post-election violence happened. And then the post-election violence happened. And then I'm telling the consequences. What happened, I saw how people were being, their houses were being burned. I was at the hospital pretty much early on when the violence was still happening, and I could see dead and injured people being brought to the hospital. That is something that most people never got to know. And I was at the center of it. So I saw what happened. Some of the information that was being reported by the media was not enough. So I saw more than what the media wrote. So that's why I felt obligated to tell Kenyans, you know, this is exactly what happened. While people were running around, others were hiding, this is what was happening. It was so dire, the situation was so bad that being the person who was at the center of it, I just felt obligated to tell the story. And I have told the story up to and including how when agencies that seek for justice for victims started doing their investigations, because you realize many documents and reports said that the violence was organized from high level, you know, by high ranking politicians. And so it qualified that the people who died and the murders that happened qualified as crimes against humanity. And so there were so many people who were interested in finding for victims who are ready to tell their story. And that's how most of them got to me. And I really participated. I was in the thick of it. I think I know more than most ordinary Kenyans know, and I have written it in the book for people to see what happened, what was happening behind the scenes. So I went up to including going to give my testimony at the International Criminal Court. You know, the International Criminal Court is based at the Hague in Netherlands. And while we were I was preparing to go, there was also all this talk about witnesses being paid to go and tell false testimonies. There was a lot of intimidation from politicians. You know, that's how politicians operate. They want to intimidate people so that they don't come out and tell their story, because it has an international component of, you know, a country being seen to have gone to the dogs. So they don't want. But at the same time, internally within the country, they are not doing any effort to bring to justice those who caused the violence. So I have told all that, the machinations that went around during the post-election violence in my book. And I also lived in Naivasha for some 2 years, and I learned that the violence that happened in Naivasha and Nakuru was as big as the violence that was meted on people in Eldoret and Kiambaa. And I have also told that story in Scars of a Nation. You have a question for me?
Um, can you hear me? Because my volume is a little, you are breaking a little bit. So I wanted to know, I know the justice, you did talk about the issue of, you know, fighting for justice. Um, how did you go about, I know you spoke about the Hague, uh, where did that, what was the outcome of you fighting for justice for your son and for the people who are, you know, being an activist in that part of, you know, the issues with violence and, you know, what was the outcome? How, how are we sure as Kenyans that whatever happened in 2007 is not, you know, it won't happen again? So if you can just share a little bit about that, that what was the outcome and, you know, how we can ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Well, being an insider of the process of going to seek for justice at the International Criminal Court, I can tell you that there was no effort whatsoever from our government to ensure that culprits are brought to book. And the simple reason is suspects sit within government. And there were, I mean, I can tell you the high-ranking politicians, I don't have the authority to mention anybody, but what I know for sure, across all the investigative agencies, including the report of the Waki Commission, including the report of the Kenya National Human Rights Commission, and many other, like Transparency International, they give their own report. They cited that there are very high-ranking politicians and business people who are involved in bankrolling the violence and strategizing. And so, given that scenario, there was an effort of self-preservation and to protect those who were mentioned not to face justice. And because that's what happened, we ordinary people have no say, because we believe that the government institutions are the ones who are supposed to really pursue justice for victims. So in as far as justice for ordinary citizens is concerned, I do not see anything happening in the near future. That story may end up just dying like that, just like the one that died of the 1992 and 1997 post-election violence. Yeah, there's nothing we can do as far as I'm concerned. Yes, I know that the case again about Kenya was referred to the UN, where they are supposed to sit and decide whether to come up with a special tribunal, and that's still sitting there. They haven't said what they want to do. So basically, I should tell you that my book is just for highlighting that story, putting into perspective the post-election violence, highlighting the suffering of victims, because there are so many victims who are suffering in silence. And I felt like I am in a privileged position to be able to speak for them. So you will see a lot of narrative about how some of the victims were so depressed, they went into depression and traumatic situations, and they died. They still continue dying up to today, and you can trace their death to 2007. Yeah, but you see, when you hear politicians talking or some government officials, it's like life has gone on. But to be honest, for victims who are really affected, it's very hard for them. Some of them had to sell their land and flee from those locations that are perennial areas that are usually being attacked. And they went to live in areas that are very hostile to them in terms of climate and even schools and even just social amenities, and there is no effort by government to give reparations. It is an international obligation for any government that has failed to protect its citizen, and then the citizens have lost their property or people have been killed. It is the responsibility of the government to provide reparations, meaning they try to return you back to where you were before the violence happened or before you got the loss. But in Kenya, it appears like everything has been so politicized that we don't see end from the beginning. It's just a chaotic situation.
Um, so the book is the highlight, and thank you so much for being an activist in that sense of bringing to for like for us to be able to put a face. For us who were here in 2007, we really didn't have a face of what was going on in Kenya, but you've been able to write it down and saying what happened, like outlining what happened, what was happening down on the ground is really important for us because we feel, we are able to put a face to that. I want to know, how is your son doing? I know you probably have discussed that, but how is your son? In situations like that, people suffer from post PTSD. How is your son doing at this moment? How is your family doing? That will be something that I would want to know.
Yeah, our son went through a very traumatizing situation. He really had a lot of pain when he was healing. For those 5 years, he would go in and out of surgery like 2 times in a week, and he was still doubling up with going to school. And he was a kid. He was supposed to be playing with other kids around, and he had very limited interaction in terms of child play. But one thing is that because he has a good attitude and we covered him, we protected him and we kept talking to him, emotionally he was able to pull through quite well up until now. And he's a very outgoing boy. So he finished high school and he's now working. He's a photographer and a videographer, and he's doing very well. So generally, he's a very positive boy, and I can be proud to say he's doing well.
Okay. So thank you for that, for to hear that your son is doing well, and thank you for writing the book and being able to tell your story. It's those moments that when someone opens up and speaks about what happened to them,
Yeah.
um, that we are able to see. Sorry, I'm using my phone too, because kind of I couldn't hear you. You were talking about your story and put the book and make the book interesting. Overcoming, those moments, seeing your son doing well. There are victims who say that, they lost their family members, they lost those who are close to them, and what would I know nothing can really comfort them, but what would be one of the things that really would make a difference is, your son is doing well, you wrote a book, you're doing fine. Those people who lost their family members, how would connect those in your situation? What would be one of the things that would be able to help?
Yes, thank you for that question. The first thing that I would want any victim to do is to accept that it happened, to accept that I had a good house, I had a very good business, my brother or my sister or my parent was killed, and they begin at that point. And then they ask themselves, what can I do from where I am now as an individual without having to depend on government or any organization to help? First of all, let them ask themselves, what should I do? And they should start now looking for activities that can empower them. If somebody had a dream of maybe one day going back to school, they should look at that, because when you engage yourself in an activity which you are so intensely immersed into, you kind of try forget what happened to you. You are in that moment. And normally, when you pull through maybe school or a business project or community service, and also going to church and getting into social groups, and at the same time getting an opportunity to speak about what happened to you, not necessarily because you're bitter, but because it relieves your pain. And when people talk to you and they say they got your back, so you feel good. And that's how empowerment is something that you need to seek to do. You need to seek to empower yourself in one way or another. Yeah, because I don't see a situation where people are going to be compensated. We should just face reality and say, okay, now I'm going to start from where I am and just go on. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think that I agree with you, and that's a good point that really people need to be,
Mm-hmm.
they're never gonna be compensated. The people who died. The grief, you know, you can only grieve for so long. You have to
Yeah.
be able to empower yourself and get up and build your life from what it is. Um, you say that that you can probably tell our viewers where they can get the book, um, here in the US, and those who are watching us from Kenya where they can get the book. That would be nice if you can tell them where they can get it.
Yeah. Before I even say where they can find my book, I really want to congratulate you for coming up with this platform for where you can be able to rally authors together and connect them with readers. Like for me, I'm a very, very avid reader of books, and I know the value of books. And we should encourage our Kenyans, particularly, to be readers of book, and especially the young generation. A book is something when you read and you can see the words written. First of all, you get the benefit of seeing how a word is written in terms of spelling and vocabulary, when you're vision. And then just the touch of the book itself, there's some kind of emotion you get connected with. And a book makes you travel to a different geographical location when you're still seated where you are. Isn't that amazing? So that's why people should have form the culture and habit of reading books. And actually, I can also add that people who are going through a traumatic situation, a book is one of those things that can help them rewire and reconnect their brain so that now they move away from that. And also books, they have an empowering effect. So my book is here in the US is available mostly on Amazon. I am promoting the platform Amazon, although it's also available in other platforms. But at the moment, I want people to concentrate on buying the book on Amazon because it's quicker. And the book is just $21 up to including your house, up to including shipping. So you can go to Amazon and type Scars of a Nation, Survivor of Kiambaa Church Massacre and the Elusive Justice, and you can buy it from there, both the hard copy and the ebook. In Kenya, I have an agent called Nuria Bookstore, Nuria. And the bookstore is located at a building called the One Building, opposite Temple House, along Moi Avenue. That's where my book is. Alternatively, there are some people who, for some reason, do not want to shop online. So they can as well contact me, and then I can ship the book to them. I think it is also just in order that I may give my phone number so that they can contact me and I can ship the book to them. You want me to give you my phone number?
Sure, you can give the phone number.
So my phone.
You can give the phone number, so that way I can put it on the comments. Anybody who wanna get the book, they can always contact you. They can DM you. They can always you're on the platform. You're on ebook join.
Yes.
They can always message you, and I'll put it there when I put the video out. I'll be able to put on your number there. You can say it right now. That way, anybody who's listening can be able to get it. So go ahead.
So my name is Peter Mbuthia, and my phone number is 916-968-5834. So you can get on WhatsApp and just write me a message or DM, and then you will send me money by Cash App, and then you DM me your address, and I'll have the book shipped to you.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned you're a reader and you're an author. So, but you also, are you planning to write another book, or is that the last book that we're gonna be able to see from you?
Oh yes. So even before I wrote this book, I was still debating within myself because I had ideas about writing a book even before the post-election violence happened. I think when you are a writer, at some point you acquire enough skill and you want to challenge yourself to also write a book and say something. And I always had this somewhere back at the back of my mind. But then I decided, let me start by this book, Scars of a Nation, so that it can introduce me to people. And because it's sort of a memoir, it was easy to write.
Yes.
And being a reader, you're also a very good writer. But you also have to work with people who will edit your work, and there's a lot to be done. So this was my first book, and I've learned a lot in terms of publishing. I know I can help other people who want to publish their first book too. Yes. So I'm planning to write another book, maybe several.
It's nice to hear that. I'm always I'm happy to hear that you're also planning to write a book. If someone has a question of where do I start, did you publish your book here? Did you publish your book back in Kenya? If someone just had a question of where do I start, can you answer that for them?
Yeah, there are two ways of publishing a book here in the US. You can be approached by established publishers, in which case they will buy your book even before it is published. They buy your manuscript, like they pay you to write a book. And most of the time, the story, you have to have written another book, so they know you. And now you do a deal, what is called a book deal. So you write for them, and they have networks of selling the book. Other than that, you can become a self-published author, which is the quickest and easiest way for you to introduce yourself into the publishing world. You just take a challenge, and you believe in yourself, and you put together a good manuscript, and then you shop around for good publishers. So anybody who would want me to advise them on where to get a good publisher, just reach out to me. We have so many publishers here in the US, but not all of them are good. Even here in the US, not all of them will deliver on their promises. So you have to be very careful on the people you are choosing to publish your books. We also have so many websites that are for scammers, So it's very important that you get in touch with somebody like me who has already published a book and I can help them. So I'm available to help someone.
Okay, so thank you so much. I mean, it was nice connecting with you,
Mm-hmm.
taking your time, and everyone else who have watched me. I see a lot of comments here, people who are watching. I see, everyone who has commented. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jane, Kagiri, for being able to say, the platform is very eye-opening. I see everyone saying good job. Everyone is commending us for the good job. Carrier Prestige from Pacific Wave Radio is there. He's watching us. So thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who has taken time to watch and being here with us. That book is available. I started reading it. I'm almost done. I'm almost done.
Thank you.
And it's very, the chapter that I read was very eye-opening about, going to a mortuary and finding a lot of bodies that are laying down there, not being able to be buried. You
Mm-hmm.
see the sadness in the book. So, it's a sad book, but it also has a good ending. My
Yeah.
ending I would have been happy to say, you know, justice was served and this will never happen again to our country. That would have been my happiest moment to be able to say that.
Mm-hmm.
But as you have said, that our government and whatever happens in our country, Kenya, sometimes it really doesn't serve us well. It doesn't serve the common man well. So I just, I don't want to be political, but that's the way it is. That's what it is. But I'm so glad that it's an eye opener and to be able to, to hear a story, because to hear a story from someone who went through all that and who passed through all that. So thank you so much, Peter, for taking your time, being here, writing the book. I know writing a book is not an easy thing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you sit down, you take a lot of time, you have to get the context, you have to remember, you have to go through to relive whatever you went through to be able to write that book. So thank you so much for writing that book. And one more thing, if you just have anything you want to add, maybe summarize, you can do that at this
Yeah, what I would like to summarize with is that this book is very common person friendly in terms of in Kenya, you know, Mwananchi, the normal Mwananchi is a very peaceful person. We interact with all the communities in Kenya, but somehow when it comes to politics, we find ourselves taking different sides, and it becomes sometimes very heated, and then we go at each other. So I'm posing a number of very crucial questions in the book. For example, why would you wake up one morning and go to your neighbor and plan to harm them just because they belong to a different political party, or they are supporting a different presidential candidate? Yet, within that area, you experience the same problems. If it is the question of bad roads, you experience bad roads together. If it is a question of insecurity, you experience insecurity together. Then why would you do that? And why would you allow, as common wananchi, why would we allow ourselves to be incited to hate other people? Because in my book, the theme of hate is coming up.
yes,
And I'm telling the theme from a perspective of dissuading people from allowing themselves to be incited.
yes,
It is very important for people to sit down and look at, why are we being told to do this to our neighbors? I mean, why would you do that? You know very well Kenya we say it's a Christian country because 85% of the population is Christian. And being a Christian, somebody who's been brought up as a Christian with all the Christian principles, why would you have a disputed, so heated violence to the level that happened in 2007 when neighbor raises against neighbor without having to think. And then when the storm cools, you start asking yourself, what did I do? Just because you responded to some politicians telling you that, these people do not belong here, or these people stole your land, or they did something to you. Common mwananchi has to be very vigilant. That's actually one of the very important themes that I'm bringing out in the book. And let me just say that. So buy the book, support authors, support people like you who are putting up this platform, and let's build a culture of reading books.
Thank you. Let's build a culture of reading books. I agree with you 100%. Uh, you know, I'm also an avid reader. Sometimes we get so busy here with the doubles and the triples that sometimes we don't get the time to read. But when we can get a chance, read a book. I'm encouraging people to download books. If you can download a book and read it in your, if you're like me who has my phone all the time, you can read it from your phone as an ebook. So get the book. You can always, support the authors, buy their book, recommend the book to someone else. Being able to talk, being able to support our authors is what we need to be able to do, and that's why I established this platform to be able to support our authors and to be able to say, here is the book, here is an author, read the book, enjoy the book, pass it on to someone else, tell it someone else, and let's keep on reading. Thank you so much, Peter.
Yeah.
Say hi to your family. It was nice to have you. Thank
Yeah.
you for spending those 45 minutes with me. It's amazing how what internet has done to us. It has connected us with so many people, and
Uh-huh.
I'm so glad to be able to continue sharing this journey with the journey of reading books and having others on my platform. So thank you so much. Say hi to your family, and good luck with everything. Good luck with your next book.
So this is how the book looks.
Yeah.
And thank you so much. God bless you too.
God bless you. Have a good
Bye.
day.